"Why are you crying?" Derek Stone asked softly, as he noticed the young waitress discreetly wiping a tear from her cheek. Her voice, barely above a murmur, insisted, "I'm fine," though the tremor in her tone betrayed her true state. Derek, a 40-year-old billionaire and CEO of StoneTech Industries, had not expected to encounter such raw emotion on an ordinary rainy night in a modest diner in Minneapolis. It was a night when the neon sign outside the diner flickered stubbornly, its light dancing over rain-streaked windows as if refusing to surrender to the darkness. Inside, the diner hummed with the low chatter of a few late-night customers and the occasional clink of utensils, while the air carried the comforting, if slightly overcooked aroma of fried food mixed with coffee that had been simmering on the burner for too long. For many, the diner was a refuge, a place to escape, even if only for a moment, from the relentless pace of life. For Derek Stone, however, it was an unexpected haven. Pushing open the glass door, he stepped inside with an uncharacteristic wariness. His tailored suit, though immaculate, was damp with the persistent drizzle of the evening, and his mind was far from the opulent haunts he usually frequented. StoneTech's sprawling steel plants had been running overtime for weeks, and while his empire flourished, the weight of his responsibilities had begun to press down on him. Tonight, he craved simplicity, a quiet corner, a warm meal, and a chance to breathe away from the calculated glare of boardrooms and billion-dollar deals. He slid into a booth near the window where he could watch the rain turn the world into a shifting watercolor of reflections. He barely glanced at the menu, for his thoughts were adrift with memories and feelings he seldom allowed himself to acknowledge. No matter how many successes he achieved, there always remained an echo of incompleteness, as though a vital piece of his soul was missing, or perhaps, as he suspected silently, someone was. It wasn't long before a waiter approached, snapping Derek from his reverie. "What can I get you tonight, sir?" the waiter inquired politely. "Grilled salmon, please, with a side of roasted vegetables." "And just water," Derek replied, his tone steady yet tinged with an unspoken melancholy. As the waiter departed, Derek leaned back in his booth, letting his eyes wander slowly across the diner. He watched the gentle clinking of glasses and the soft murmur of conversation, the scene so ordinary yet somehow stirring something deep within him. That's when his gaze landed on her, a young waitress who moved with a graceful ease among the tables as she balanced a tray laden with dishes. There was something about her, an ineffable quality that made his heart skip a beat. He couldn't quite articulate it. Perhaps it was the kindness in the way she interacted with the few patrons, or the quiet determination in the set of her shoulders as she hurried through her work. Despite her simple uniform and the modesty of her surroundings, her face held a haunting familiarity. Derek's pulse quickened. He watched her intently, trying to shake the notion that her features belonged to someone from a forgotten part of his past. Eventually, she returned to his table with his order. "Here's your meal, sir," she said in a gentle, polite tone, setting down the plate before him. In that brief moment, as her eyes met his, Derek's breath caught. There was something in the curve of her smile and the depth of her gaze that stirred a long-dormant memory. He struggled to place her, the sensation both disconcerting and compelling. "Thank you," he managed, though his voice came out distant and almost as if he were speaking through a haze. Without a second glance, she turned away to serve another table, completely unaware of the storm of emotion she had just ignited inside him. Unable to eat, Derek sat for a long while, staring at his untouched plate as his mind raced. He knew her. He was certain of it. There was an undeniable pull, a mixture of excitement and unease, as if fate itself had conspired to bring him to this very moment. He found himself glancing over her shoulder as she moved gracefully among the diners, noting the kindness in the way she responded to customers' requests, the quiet patience with which she handled every interaction, and a subtle, inexplicable thread that seemed to connect her to his past. His chest tightened as a memory began to surface. A classroom filled with eager children, a kind voice telling him, "You can do it, Ethan. I believe in you." Could it be? Could this gentle waitress, whose face now evoked both nostalgia and profound emotion, be the very woman who had once changed his life forever? Determined to find answers, he raised his hand as she passed by the counter, signaling for her attention. She approached his table once more, her steps measured, her eyes steady yet tinged with a hint of caution. "Is everything all right with your meal, sir?" she asked kindly, her voice soft and professional though carrying an undercurrent of concern. Derek hesitated, the weight of his emotions heavy on his tongue, before speaking slowly. "Yes, the meal is perfect, but may I ask you something personal?" Her eyes widened slightly, and for a moment silence stretched between them. "Sure," she replied hesitantly, her tone hinting at both curiosity and a reluctance to reopen old wounds. Leaning forward slightly, Derek's voice trembled as he said, I can't shake the feeling that I know you, that you once changed my life. When I was just a child." His heart pounded as he recalled the tender memories of a shy, uncertain boy in a small classroom, buoyed by the gentle encouragement of a teacher whose words had echoed through his very being. The waitress blinked slowly, her face paling as if a long-held secret had been suddenly unearthed. "I'm sorry," she murmured, her voice cracking as if trying to hold back tears, "but I don't quite understand." Derek leaned in, his tone low and earnest. "Were you by any chance a teacher at Maple Grove Elementary School?" he asked, the question hanging in the air like a fragile promise. For a long, heavy moment, the waitress, whose name was now revealed as Olivia Grant, stood frozen. Then, her eyes widened and she took a small step back as if startled by the sudden surge of recognition. I was," she stammered softly. "I taught at Maple Grove Elementary School many years ago." In that instant, Derek's heart thudded in his chest. Memories, vivid and long suppressed, surged forth like a tidal wave. "Olivia, is that truly you?" he whispered, his voice thick with a mix of disbelief and deep gratitude. "I remember you so well. You always told me, 'You can do it, Ethan. I believe in you.'" The flood of recollections overwhelmed him. The timid boy in the back of the classroom, the caring teacher who had lifted him up when no one else would. For a long moment, Olivia's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she struggled to reconcile the woman before her with the long-ago memories of her former student. "Ethan, I never thought you'd remember me," she said softly, her voice trembling with a mixture of joy and sorrow. "I always hoped that you'd find your way, that you'd become everything you dreamed of." Derek's heart swelled with both pride and aching regret as he listened. "Olivia, I know it sounds unbelievable, but I do remember every word you said, every encouragement you gave me," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "You changed my life in ways I can never repay." Olivia's expression softened, yet a deep sadness lingered in her eyes as she looked down. I had dreams, Ethan," she murmured. "Dreams of inspiring young minds and changing the world through teaching, but when the funding was cut and opportunities vanished, I had no choice but to leave the classroom behind." Her voice was heavy with the burden of unfulfilled aspirations, a secret that she had guarded for years. "I had to take whatever work I could find just to keep my life together," she added quietly, the pain of lost potential etched into every word. Derek's heart ached at the revelation. Here was the woman who had once believed in him with all her heart, reduced by circumstance to working in a humble diner far from the world of learning she once cherished. "Olivia, I'm so sorry," he said, his voice thick with remorse and longing. "You deserve so much more than this. You gave me hope when I had none, and I can't imagine my life without your kindness echoing in it." Olivia's eyes shimmered with tears, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never wanted recognition or rewards," she replied. "I only wanted to help you and all the children who needed someone to believe in them." Her words, simple and honest, resonated with a quiet truth that left Derek speechless. In the days that followed, Derek's mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. His days at Stone Tech Industries, where he ran a sprawling steel empire with the precision of a seasoned executive, were now haunted by the gentle memory of Olivia's compassion. Every board meeting, every strategic decision seemed somehow less important compared to the quiet, unassuming diner where a piece of his past had resurfaced. His best friend, Marcus Cole, a quick-witted and irreverent spirit known for his playful bets and candid advice, texted him throughout the day. "So, you actually ran into your old teacher," one message read. "Bet you didn't see that coming." Marcus's teasing was laced with genuine curiosity and a hint of admiration, reminding Derek of the challenge he had inadvertently accepted, to rediscover the authenticity of his youth and honor the person who had once helped him believe in himself. Unable to ignore the pull of destiny, Derek resolved to see Olivia again. That very evening, after a grueling day of endless meetings and the ceaseless demands of a billionaire's schedule, he returned to the diner. This time, he chose a booth near the window, his eyes fixed on the door as if waiting for fate to deliver its next twist. The diner, with its faded neon sign, cozy atmosphere, and the comforting scent of overbrewed coffee mingling with fried delights, felt like a refuge, a small, imperfect haven away from the sterile corridors of corporate power. As the soft chatter of late-night patrons resumed, and the clink of utensils punctuated the gentle hum of conversation, Derek's thoughts churned with questions. Who was this Olivia truly? What dreams had she sacrificed, and what hidden strength lay behind those tired eyes? He watched as she moved behind the counter, leaning against a worn-out wall with a stack of order slips pinned above the grill, her posture momentarily betraying a heaviness that no one else might notice. Unable to keep his concern to himself any longer, Derek called softly to her as she passed by his table. "Olivia, are you all right?" he asked in a gentle tone, genuine worry threading through his voice. For a split second, she froze as if caught off guard. Then, with a tight, forced smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, she replied, "I'm fine, sir. Just a rough night, that's all." Her voice was quiet, and her gaze dropped to the floor, as though the burden of her unspoken sorrows weighed heavily on her. Derek's heart tightened at the sight, and he leaned forward slightly. "You seem tired," he murmured softly. "If you ever need someone to talk to, sometimes sharing can help." His tone was inviting, warm and devoid of any condescension. For a long moment, Olivia hesitated, as though debating whether to confide in this stranger who had unexpectedly re-entered her life. Finally, with a shaky breath and eyes glistening with vulnerability, she spoke. It's been overwhelming lately. I'm working double shifts to keep everything together. My daughter, who's only 2, and her father isn't in the picture anymore. I'm trying to do it all, but sometimes it feels like I'm failing." A confession, quiet and trembling, hung in the air as Derek listened intently, each word resonating like a soft plea for understanding. He reached out with empathy rather than intrusion. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "No one should have to carry such a weight alone. You don't have to apologize for sharing. It takes great strength to be honest about pain." His words, gentle and sincere, offered a sliver of comfort. Olivia's eyes flickered with a mixture of surprise and relief. For a moment, the world around them, the low hum of conversation, the clatter of dishes, even the persistent rain outside, seemed to fade into a quiet background as they focused on this intimate exchange. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice raw yet grateful. I just sometimes forget that there are people who care." Derek's gaze softened as he watched her retreat behind the counter, where she leaned against the wall and allowed herself a brief moment of solitude, dabbing at her eyes with the back of her sleeve. Unable to shake the image of her fragile determination, Derek finished his coffee but did not call for the check immediately. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small piece of paper and a pen. He stared at the blank page for a long moment, unsure how to begin, until the words began to flow, a few heartfelt sentences born from the depths of empathy and the realization that sometimes a small gesture could be a lifeline. He wrote simply about resilience, about how the mere act of showing up mattered, about how he had seen in her a quiet strength that few could recognize in themselves. The note was not elaborate. It was plain and sincere, a few sentences that spoke of hope, gratitude, and a belief that even in the darkest nights, a small light could make all the difference. After folding the note carefully, he slipped it under the edge of his empty coffee cup and hesitated, wondering if such a modest gesture could truly mean something to her. Glancing up, he caught her eye as she returned to her work, her movements slightly slower than before, as if burdened by invisible chains. Gathering his courage, he rose from his booth and, as he passed by the counter, offered her a small, reassuring smile and said softly, "Take care of yourself." He left a generous tip on the table before stepping out into the rainy night. Later that night, as the diner's fluorescent lights hummed and the last patrons trickled out, Olivia found the folded note. With trembling fingers, she unfolded it and read the simple, heartfelt words that Derek had written. The message was not grandiose or laden with empty platitudes. It spoke of quiet strength, of the importance of showing up even when everything feels too heavy, and of the hope that comes from knowing one is seen and valued. Tears welled in her eyes, not solely of sorrow but of a bittersweet relief, as if someone had finally recognized the struggles she had kept hidden away. That night, when she tucked her daughter into bed, Olivia felt for the first time in weeks that the weight on her shoulders might just become a little lighter, that perhaps there was hope for change. The following day, as she came to work with a renewed, if tentative, sense of purpose, her co-workers noticed a subtle change in her, an easier smile, a glimmer of determination in her tired eyes. Weeks later, by chance, Derek returned to the diner. He hadn't planned on it. He was simply in the neighborhood and found himself thinking of that quiet moment and the note that had stirred something within him. As he walked in, he barely recognized the transformed woman behind the counter. Olivia greeted him with a polite hello, her voice steadier now, as if bolstered by the memory of that small act of kindness. "Coffee again?" she asked, and he nodded, taking his usual seat near the window. As she poured the steaming cup, their eyes met briefly, and she leaned in slightly, saying quietly, "I kept your note." Her words, soft and almost tentative, sent a ripple through him. "I just wanted you to know that it made a difference," she added, her tone earnest. Derek smiled, surprised, grateful and quietly moved, and replied, "I'm glad to hear that." Their conversation was brief, but it carried a weight that neither would soon forget. In the days that followed, life continued its steady pace. Derek returned to the relentless demands of Stone Tech Industries, and Olivia worked diligently to support her daughter while striving to build a better future for both of them. Yet the impact of that note lingered like an ember in their hearts. For Olivia, it became a small lifeline, a reminder that even in the darkest times, someone had seen her struggle and cared enough to offer a few simple words of hope. Inspired by that gesture, she began taking small steps toward change, reaching out to a local non-profit that supported single mothers, enrolling in evening classes to further her education, and even exploring new opportunities that might offer a more secure future for her and her daughter. Meanwhile, Derek found himself thinking back to that night more often than he cared to admit. Though his days were filled with boardroom meetings and the ceaseless operations of a steel empire, his mind would frequently wander to the quiet diner, to the soft sound of Olivia's voice, and to the raw honesty captured in a few handwritten lines. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, he sat alone in his luxurious penthouse overlooking the rain-swept city and reflected on the small act that had unexpectedly changed everything. He realized that, while his empire was built on numbers and contracts, the true measure of his success had always been the moments of genuine human connection, the moments when someone took the time to care, even when it wasn't expected. Then, one day, as fate would have it, an envelope arrived at his office. The return address was unfamiliar, and for a moment Derek assumed it was just another piece of junk mail. But as he opened it, his eyes widened. Inside was a handwritten letter from Olivia, written in a careful, unadorned script. In it, she thanked him for his kindness and explained how the note had sparked a change in her. A change that had given her the courage to pursue her dreams and to believe that she was not alone in her struggles. At the end of the letter, she extended an invitation to attend the opening ceremony of a community center she had helped establish for struggling families. The center, she wrote, was a project born out of the hope that even the smallest acts of kindness could build bridges and transform lives. Derek's hands trembled slightly as he read the invitation. The letter was a tangible reminder that his seemingly small gesture had grown into something far greater than he had ever imagined. Intrigued and moved, Derek decided to attend the ceremony. On the day of the event, he arrived at the newly constructed community center in a modest part of the city, a building with bright murals, cheerful signage, and a palpable atmosphere of hope and renewal. A small crowd had gathered outside, and as he approached, he saw Olivia standing near the entrance. Her face, once etched with quiet sorrow, now shone with an inner light, a mixture of gratitude, resilience, and quiet pride. When she spotted him, she smiled warmly and stepped forward. "I'm glad you came," she said softly, her voice carrying a strength that belied the hardships of her recent days. "Your note, it gave me hope when I needed it most," Derek nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "I'm honored to see what you've built," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "You've turned those few kind words into a beacon for so many." The ceremony unfolded with speeches from community leaders, heartfelt music, and the unmistakable buzz of people united by a common purpose. As the ribbon was cut and the doors opened, Derek watched as families, children, and local residents streamed into the center, their faces lit with anticipation and hope. In that moment, Derek realized that the true impact of kindness is not measured by immediate recognition, but by the ripple effects it creates over time. He thought back to every time he had felt alone despite his wealth, every moment of isolation in a world obsessed with numbers. Now, in the warmth of that community center, he saw that his small act, a few handwritten sentences meant to offer solace, had become a catalyst for profound change. He knew that, though he might never fully repay the debt of gratitude he owed to Olivia, he could honor her strength by continuing to support those who needed it most. Over the following weeks, Derek and Olivia began to correspond more frequently. Their letters, initially tentative and formal, soon grew warm and familiar. In one, Olivia described how the community center had become a lifeline for families struggling to make ends meet. In another, Derek confided that the simple act of reaching out had rekindled in him a long-forgotten hope. Their words bridged the gap between two very different worlds, the world of steel empires and boardrooms, and the world of quiet resilience and personal triumph. With each letter, their connection deepened, and soon, Derek found himself seeking not just to support Olivia's projects from afar, but to be part of her life in a more profound way. One crisp fall day, as the leaves turned brilliant shades of red and gold outside the window of a small community cafe, Derek invited Olivia to meet again, this time away from the diner and away from the formalities of their initial encounter. They met at a quiet table in the corner of the cafe, the atmosphere intimate and unhurried. "I've been thinking a lot about that night," Derek began, his voice soft but resolute, "and I realized that you changed something in me, a part of me that I'd long forgotten. I want to know more about you, about your dreams, and about how I can help you find the happiness you deserve." Olivia regarded him quietly, her eyes reflecting a mix of hope and cautious vulnerability. "I never expected anyone to see beyond the hardships I've faced," she replied slowly. "For so long, I thought I was invisible, that my struggles were mine alone, but your kindness made me realize that even in our darkest moments, we are not truly alone." Their conversation flowed naturally, punctuated by moments of shared laughter and quiet reflection, as they both began to see that their lives, once so divergent, were converging in unexpected ways. As the seasons passed, their relationship evolved from tentative friendship into something deeper, a connection forged not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, persistent strength of honesty and empathy. Derek began to invest not only in the success of Stone Tech Industries, but also in projects that promoted social equity and community empowerment. He redirected resources to support education, job training, and mentorship programs for those who, like Olivia, had once been overlooked by a society obsessed with appearances. In turn, Olivia found a new sense of purpose in sharing her story, mentoring other single mothers, and advocating for more compassionate social policies. Their lives, once defined by the rigid parameters of success and survival, were slowly transformed by the realization that true wealth was measured not in dollars, but in the legacy of love and hope one left behind. Despite the growing public attention that accompanied their unlikely union, headlines that read, "Billionaire's tender gesture, how a note changed everything," and "From diner to destiny, the woman who inspired a revolution," Derek and Olivia remained steadfast in their commitment to authenticity. They were not interested in flashy displays or empty accolades. Rather, they focused on building a future that honored the quiet strength of the human spirit. In boardrooms, at community events, and even in casual conversations with friends, Derek would often reflect on the transformative power of that rainy night. "I once measured success by what I could see on a balance sheet," he would say, "but I now know that the most important figures in life are the moments of genuine connection, the smiles, the tears, the shared hopes that remind us that we are all human." Olivia, her voice gentle yet firm, would add, "Every day I choose to believe that even the smallest act of kindness can spark a change that ripples through countless lives. And sometimes, it's the quietest gestures that have the most profound impact." In the years that followed, the legacy of Derek Stone and Olivia Grant spread far beyond the walls of that humble Minneapolis diner. Their philanthropic initiatives flourished, reaching communities in every corner of the country. Schools established scholarship programs in their honor, community centers adopted their models of outreach, and young entrepreneurs were inspired by their story to pursue a path defined by ethical leadership and compassion. The tale of a billionaire who once found solace in a quiet diner and a young waitress whose unspoken pain became a catalyst for change became a modern parable, a timeless reminder that true success is measured by the integrity of one's heart and the impact one has on the lives of others. One particularly memorable winter, as Minneapolis was cloaked in a soft blanket of snow and the city lights shimmered like jewels against the night sky, Derek and Olivia attended a small fundraising dinner at a renovated community hall. In that warm, intimate space, filled with the murmur of heartfelt conversations and the comforting clink of simple dinnerware, Derek took to the stage with a vulnerability that surprised even him. "There was a time when I believed that every problem could be solved with money," he began, his voice trembling with the weight of his newfound insights. "But I have learned that the most enduring solutions are born of genuine human connection, of the courage to show kindness when no one else is watching." His words, sincere and raw, echoed in the silence that followed. Olivia stepped forward, her eyes shining with quiet determination, and said softly, "Let us remember that our true measure is not in the wealth we accumulate, but in the lives we touch and the love we share. Each act of compassion is a testament to our shared humanity." The applause that followed was not thunderous in volume, but it resonated deeply, affirming the belief that true wealth is indeed measured in moments of authenticity and kindness. After the dinner, as the community hall emptied and the gentle hum of the city resumed its familiar cadence, Derek and Olivia returned to their modest home, a sanctuary filled with cherished memories, handwritten letters and the soft glow of hope. There, under the quiet light of a single lamp, Derek sat at his desk and began to write a letter, a personal manifesto that captured the essence of his transformation. "For too long," he wrote in deliberate, careful script, "I measured my worth by the size of my bank account and the deals I closed. But I have come to understand that the most valuable currency in life is the love we give, the honesty we live by, and the lives we change along the way. Today, I choose to invest in a future defined by compassion, integrity, and the courage to be true to oneself." His words, plain yet profound, became a guiding beacon for his future endeavors, a reminder that even the smallest gestures of kindness could spark a revolution of change. Olivia, too, embraced her role as an agent of transformation. No longer content to be defined solely by the hardships that had once forced her to let go of her dreams, she devoted herself to mentoring young people, volunteering at local shelters, and speaking at community centers about the importance of living authentically. "I left behind a world where worth was measured in dollars," she would say softly in interviews, "so that I could discover what truly matters in life and help others see that they are so much more than their circumstances." Her gentle yet unwavering conviction resonated with many, igniting a movement that celebrated the quiet power of authenticity and the belief that every individual had the right to define their own success. As the legacy of Derek Stone and Olivia Grant continued to grow, their story became woven into the fabric of the communities they served, a modern parable of redemption, hope, and the transformative power of love. Their philanthropic initiatives expanded to include scholarship programs for underprivileged youth, community outreach projects that revitalized neglected neighborhoods, and mentorship schemes that nurtured a new generation of ethical leaders. Public lectures, television interviews, and even university courses began to feature their remarkable journey as a shining example of how one small act of kindness can change the course of a life, and by extension, the world. One bright summer afternoon, as the Minneapolis skyline glimmered in the soft light of the setting sun and the city pulsed with creative energy, Derek and Olivia strolled together along a vibrant boulevard lined with eclectic cafes and independent boutiques. Amid the lively urban symphony, the rhythmic tapping of footsteps on the pavement, the murmur of friendly chatter, and the occasional strum of a street guitarist, they paused at a quaint sidewalk cafe. "I used to think that success was defined solely by what I could achieve in the boardroom," Derek mused quietly as he sipped an iced coffee, brewed to perfection. "But I now know that the most meaningful successes are the ones we share with others, the moments of genuine connection that remind us we are all in this together." Olivia squeezed his hand gently and replied, We each have the power to choose our own path, one where our true worth is measured not by our bank balances, but by the love we extend and the difference we make. In that simple, unassuming moment, surrounded by the everyday beauty of life in Minneapolis, they both understood that the richest treasures in life were found in authenticity and the strength of the human spirit. News of their transformative journey spread slowly at first, then with growing intensity, until the story of a 40-year-old billionaire who reconnected with his long-lost teacher, now working as a waitress, and the profound change that followed became a source of inspiration for people everywhere. Local newspapers chronicled their reunion as a tale of redemption and hope, while social media buzzed with hashtags celebrating their courage and authenticity. Universities invited them to speak about ethical leadership, and community centers used their story as a model for creating positive change. True wealth, Derek later proclaimed in an interview, is not measured by the numbers in our bank accounts, but by the lives we touch and the love we share. It is built on the foundation of honesty and the willingness to be vulnerable, even in the face of overwhelming odds, Olivia would add quietly. Our true legacy is defined not by what we inherit, but by the choices we make every day, to be kind, to be honest, and to believe that every single one of us has value. Despite the accolades and widespread admiration, Derek and Olivia remained deeply connected to the intimate lessons that had brought them together. Late at night, when the world outside seemed to fade away, they would retreat to the cozy confines of their modest home, a sanctuary filled with photographs, handwritten letters, and memories of a past that had led them to this transformative present. On many such evenings, as rain pattered softly against the window and the city's distant hum lulled them into quiet reflection, Derek would pick up his pen and write a letter to himself, a record of his metamorphosis, a reminder that the true measure of success lies in the compassion we offer and the integrity with which we live our lives. For too long, he would write in careful, deliberate script, "I believed that my worth was defined by the triumphs of my career and the size of my fortune. But now I know that the richest life is one where every act of kindness creates ripples that extend far beyond ourselves." His words, raw and unadorned, became a mantra for the future, a guiding principle that would shape his decisions and his legacy for years to come. Olivia, too, found strength in her newfound purpose. No longer defined solely by the hardships that had once forced her into a life of quiet perseverance, she embraced her role as a mentor and advocate for those whose voices had long been silenced by a society fixated on material success. In community centers and local schools, she shared her story with gentle conviction, urging young people to see beyond the glitter of wealth and to find value in their own unique journeys. "I chose to leave behind a world that measured worth in dollars," she would say softly in interviews, "so that I could discover the true essence of who I am, and to help others realize that their worth is not determined by their circumstances, but by the strength of their hearts." Her words, delivered with the quiet authority of someone who had overcome great odds, resonated with countless individuals, inspiring them to forge a new path defined by authenticity and resilience. As the years passed, the extraordinary journey of Derek Stone and Olivia Grant became a living legend, a modern parable woven into the fabric of their community and celebrated far beyond the streets of Minneapolis. Their philanthropic initiatives flourished, creating opportunities for underprivileged youth, revitalizing neglected neighborhoods, and nurturing ethical leadership in a generation eager to redefine success. Their story was recounted in boardrooms, classrooms, and community gatherings across the nation, a timeless reminder that the most valuable treasures in life are not material possessions, but the love and honesty we share with one another. One crisp autumn evening, as the city of Minneapolis was cloaked in a soft, golden light and the first hints of winter's chill crept into the air, Derek and Olivia were invited to speak at a small fundraising dinner held at a renovated community center in a historic part of the city. In the intimate space, with its exposed brick walls and flickering candlelight, Derek took the stage and spoke with a vulnerability that few had ever witnessed. "There was a time when I measured my worth solely by my financial achievements," he began, his voice resonant with both regret and hope. "But I have learned that true success is defined by the lives we touch and the love we share. Each act of kindness builds a legacy that no sum of money can ever purchase." Olivia stepped forward, her eyes steady and luminous, and added softly, Let our journey be a reminder that the choices we make every day, choices rooted in authenticity and compassion, are what truly define us. The audience responded with heartfelt applause, their cheers a collective affirmation of a new way of measuring success. In the quiet aftermath of that transformative evening, as the community center slowly emptied and the echoes of kind words lingered in the air, Derek and Olivia retreated to their modest home, a place filled with warmth, mementos of their past, and the gentle promise of a future defined by purpose rather than opulence. There, in the stillness of a late-night conversation beneath the soft glow of a single lamp, Derek reflected on the events that had so profoundly altered his life. "I used to believe that my destiny was determined by the relentless pursuit of wealth," he confessed softly. "But now I see that destiny is what we create with every act of kindness, every honest word, every moment we choose to be true to ourselves." Olivia, her eyes glistening with quiet resolve, replied, "Our journey has taught me that true happiness is not found in accolades or material success, but in the connections we forge and the lives we change." Their words, exchanged in the tender intimacy of that moment, served as a promise, a vow to continue building a legacy that celebrated the genuine value of the human heart. Thus, the extraordinary journey of Derek Stone and Olivia Grant evolved into a living testament to the transformative power of love, authenticity, and the courage to be vulnerable. What began as a chance encounter in a quiet Minneapolis diner, where a billionaire, weary of the empty trappings of success, unexpectedly recognized the face of his past, had blossomed into a profound love story that defied societal expectations. Their union, forged in the crucible of shared memories and quiet revelations, became a beacon of hope for countless others. It was a story that reminded everyone that the most valuable treasures in life are not measured by bank balances or grand gestures, but by the integrity of our actions and the love that we cultivate every day. In the years that followed, Derek and Olivia dedicated themselves to a mission that extended far beyond their own personal happiness. They established philanthropic foundations that supported underprivileged communities, funded educational programs for those who had been left behind, and launched mentorship initiatives that helped young people dream beyond the constraints of their circumstances. Their names, once associated solely with the trappings of high finance and anonymity, became synonymous with a new era of ethical leadership, one that celebrated vulnerability, empathy, and the belief that every person has the power to change the world through small acts of kindness. Public opinion shifted as their story spread from local newspapers to national media, from heartfelt blog posts to inspiring social media campaigns. True success, Derek would say in interviews, is not defined by the deals you close or the money you earn. It's defined by the lives you touch and the hope you inspire. I learned that the most powerful legacy we can leave behind is one of compassion and authenticity. Olivia, with quiet strength, added, "We are more than our circumstances. We have the power to rise above what the world expects of us and to create a life that is truly our own." Their words resonated deeply, inspiring countless individuals to re-examine their own definitions of success and to seek fulfillment, not in material wealth, but in the depth of their relationships and the impact they could have on others. Despite the challenges that came with their newfound fame, a barrage of questions from the media, the skepticism of old rivals, and the constant pressure to conform to outdated ideals, Derek and Olivia remained grounded in their core values. They continued to support initiatives that promoted social justice and equity, mentoring young leaders and investing in projects that brought hope to neglected communities. In boardrooms where decisions were once made solely on the basis of profit margins, Derek began to champion ethical practices and the importance of human connection. Olivia, once forced to hide her true self behind a veneer of survival, emerged as a powerful advocate for authenticity, inspiring others to embrace their vulnerabilities and to define their own worth. One particularly memorable summer afternoon, as the Seattle skyline glimmered under a hazy golden sunset and the city pulsed with the vibrancy of possibility, Derek and Olivia took a leisurely stroll along a bustling boulevard lined with eclectic shops and cozy cafes. Amid the gentle hum of urban life, the rhythmic clatter of footsteps, the murmur of friendly conversation, and the soft strains of an acoustic guitar played by a street performer, they paused at a small park bench to rest, I used to think that every problem could be solved by closing a deal or making a big investment, Derek said quietly, gazing out at the shimmering reflection of the setting sun on a nearby pond. But now I know that the real solutions lie in the connections we build and the compassion we show every day. Olivia squeezed his hand gently and replied, "We each have the power to choose a path that honors our true selves. A path defined by honesty, kindness, and the relentless belief that every individual matters." In that moment, with the soft light of dusk enveloping them and the world around them moving at a gentle pace, they both understood that the richest rewards in life were not measured by material gain, but by the authenticity of the human spirit. Their journey, which had begun with a chance meeting in a quiet diner on a rainy night, had grown into a beacon of inspiration, a story retold in boardrooms, classrooms, and community centers across the nation. It became a modern parable of redemption and hope, a narrative that challenged the traditional metrics of success and celebrated the power of vulnerability and love. Though Derek had once been defined by the relentless pursuit of wealth and power, and Olivia had borne the quiet scars of a life forced into sacrifice, together they discovered that true fulfillment was found in the courage to be honest, to reach out, and to transform pain into possibility. Even as the public celebrated their remarkable transformation, Derek and Olivia remained intimately aware of the personal lessons that had brought them together. In the quiet moments of early morning and late at night, when the chaos of the world softened into the stillness of shared solitude, they would often reminisce about that fateful night in the diner, the moment when a single, heartfelt note had set in motion a chain of events that altered their lives forever. "I still remember the way you looked at me that night," Derek would say softly, his eyes reflecting both wonder and gratitude. "It was as if you saw right through the armor I'd built around my heart, and in that instant I knew I had to change." Olivia would squeeze his hand in gentle affirmation, replying, "You gave me the chance to see that even in the darkest moments there is hope, and that our pasts do not define us but guide us toward a brighter future." Their quiet reflection served as a constant reminder that the most profound transformations often begin with the smallest acts of kindness, a note left on a coffee cup, a smile shared in passing, and that the true measure of success lies in the legacy of love and compassion we leave behind. In time, the extraordinary journey of Derek Stone and Olivia Grant evolved into something far greater than either had ever imagined. Their names became etched in the hearts of those they touched, celebrated not for the wealth they once represented, but for the values they embodied. Their philanthropic efforts expanded to reach communities beyond Seattle. Scholarship programs were established, community centers were built, and mentorship initiatives were launched to empower those who had long been overlooked. Public lectures and television interviews featured their story as a shining example of ethical leadership and the transformative power of vulnerability. Real wealth, Derek would often say, is not measured in dollars or deals, but in the kindness we extend and the lives we uplift. Olivia would add quietly, "When we choose to be true to ourselves and to care for one another, we create ripples that can change the world." Even as old rivals and critics from the cutthroat world of business attempted to undermine their achievements, Derek and Olivia remained steadfast in their commitment to living a life defined by honesty and compassion. They understood that every challenge they faced was an opportunity to reaffirm their values, to show that true strength lies not in external accolades, but in the courage to embrace our vulnerabilities and to support those in need. In the gentle glow of a winter night, as the city of Seattle lay hushed beneath a blanket of snow and the soft light of street lamps cast long, hopeful shadows, they continued to build a legacy that would inspire future generations to redefine success on their own terms. Thus, the tale of a chance encounter in a quiet diner, where a billionaire, weary from the relentless demands of an empire, unexpectedly reconnected with the woman who had once changed his life, became a modern legend. It was a story of rediscovery, of transformation born from the simplest act of kindness, and of the enduring truth that true wealth lies not in what we possess, but in who we are and how we uplift those around us. Derek Stone and Olivia Grant's journey, woven together by fate and sealed by the courage to be vulnerable, remains a testament to the idea that every act of honesty, every whispered word of encouragement, and every small gesture of care can spark a revolution of change that reverberates far beyond what the eye can see. As the years passed, their extraordinary love story continued to serve as a beacon for all who dared to dream of a better world. A world where success is measured not by material gain, but by the legacy of love and compassion we leave behind. In classrooms, boardrooms, and community centers across the nation, their narrative was shared as a reminder that the most important victories in life are those won by the heart. And as the neon lights of Seattle flickered softly against the dark sky, and the gentle rhythm of rain on the pavement whispered promises of new beginnings, Derek and Olivia walked hand in hand into the future. Each step a tribute to the transformative power of vulnerability, every moment a testament to the enduring truth that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change everything.